भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावदीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। The topic: impediments in the spiritual path. In the lesson, use and abuse of religion. Yes, Anshu.
Impediments in the spiritual path. The true spiritual path is a scientific, methodic process for human redemption. Human beings are steeped in spiritual ignorance. Everywhere, people grope in darkness to find peace and happiness in the world. What they need is the light of consciousness that shines within every living soul, the knowledge of the divine self. The process of redemption is clear and simple. Analyze the nature of your inner personality. Assess your spiritual need. Treat it with the compatible spiritual courses. Practice them diligently, consistently, until you gain that supreme knowledge. However, while pursuing the course of spirituality, you must carefully avoid, overcome two main impediments that confront you. The first is at mundane level, which is common to all, while the second is encountered by those who take up the spiritual practices seriously. The common factor in both impediments is the human weakness of becoming attached to the object of experience. The mind craves for sensual pleasures, emotional feelings, and intellectual concepts. It gets you involved in and attached to the mundane affairs. As a result of your attachment to the world, you lose sight of the spiritual goal. This impedes your progress in the spiritual path. The second impediment you face is your attachment to spiritual courses, your involvement in bhakti, devotion, jnanam, knowledge, and karma, action. The course themselves turn out to be the most entertaining. They provide you with much greater peace and joy than that provided by your mundane activities. Your mind develops a fascination for the courses themselves and begins to revel in them. Gradually, you become involved in, attached to the practices. It is far more difficult to pull yourself out of spiritual involvement than from mundane involvement. Hence, you continue to merely indulge in their enjoyment. You lose the very purpose of the spiritual path you have undertaken. With no thought of spiritual unfoldment and enlightenment, that becomes a greater obstacle in the spiritual path. Since the entertainment derived from spiritual practices is far superior to that of mundane activities, you become more bound to them. The attachment to spiritual revelry is more binding than the attachment to worldly pleasures and joy. That explains why the attachment to spiritual courses turn out to be a great obstacle in the path. You become more deeply rooted in ignorance. You grope in denser darkness. The Ishavasya Upanishad in verse 9 cautions humanity of this eminent failing in the spiritual path. Those who are involved and attached to the material world grope in blinding darkness, ignorance, which while those who are attached to spiritual causes are lost in greater darkness, ignorance. You must overcome these main obstacles in your spiritual path. Get over your attachment by gaining objectivity in life. You gain objectivity by strengthening your intellect through daily study of Vedantic knowledge. Reflect upon the truths therein. Use that knowledge to maintain objectivity in your material as well as spiritual life. You would then rise above all attachments and involvements. Remember, You take to the spiritual course for your evolvement, not your involvement. Never lose sight of the goal of enlightenment through your life. The spiritual courses are undertaken to unfold the divinity within you. They pertain to the terrestrial realm. They can reach you only to a point of terrestrial perfection. You cannot take but cannot take you directly to the transcendental reality. The reality lies beyond the terrestrial realm. Hence, you will not have to ultimately go beyond all terrestrial effort and cross over to the transcendental. The phenomena strikingly similar to an athletic event known as pole vault. In this event, the pole vaulter uses a pole to gain the height required to cross over a bar set for the purpose. The athlete runs with the pole, peg one end of it on the ground, heaves himself up with the other end to the height of the bar, discards the pole, and rolls over to the other side. No pole vaulter can jump that height without the pole. Equally so, no pole vaulter can jump that height with the pole. If he clings on to the pole after reaching the height, he will dislodge the bar. Only by discarding the pole at that height can he cross over to the other side. In the same manner, you cannot gain enlightenment without the aid of spiritual courses. Ironically, if you are attached to the courses, cling on to them, you cannot gain it either. The spiritual courses can lift you to the zenith of terrestrial perfection. Thereafter, you must leave them and plunge into the silence of meditation. Then alone would you be able to cross over the transcendental, attain spiritual enlightenment.
The reference here is to the Isavasya Upanishad mantra. Andam tamah pravishanti. Pravishanti means they enter. Andam tamah, blinding darkness. Blinding darkness as in no chance for inquiry at all. That is blinding darkness. What does blinding darkness means? They are so sure, so sure, so sure that all inquiry stops. That's what is called blinding darkness. In the spiritual path, till you attain self-realization, that inquiry spirit has to be kept alive. At any point of time, you can at no point of time you can say I know. If you say I know, the Upanishad will turn back and ask you, do you have Brahma Vidya? Brahma Vidya means uh, not what you get on Wednesday class. This is not Brahma Vidya. Do you know Brahman? Do you have the Brahma Vidya in that sense? No. It means keep the inquiry alive. What is Andam Tamaha? Andam Tamaha is blinding darkness. What is blinding darkness? A kind of reveling in that. Mundaka Upanishad elaborates it further. This is Isavasya Upanishad, mantra 9, verse 9, Isavasya Upanishad. Go to Mundaka Upanishad, chapter 1, section 2, mantra 8. Mundaka. 1, 2, 8 nu போட்டுக்கோங்க, it becomes easy. There. Chapter 1, section 2, mantra 8. Avidyaya mantare vartamanaha swayam dhiraah panditam manyamanaha janganyamanaah pariyanti moodaha andenaiva andena eva. Same word, andam tamaha, blinding darkness. Mundaka Upanishad. You go to the other Upanishads, they also say the same thing. Andam tamaha, blinding darkness. This blinding darkness is the impediment in the spiritual path. All paths will face with a vigna, obstacle, impediment. Path means there will be an obstacle, impediment. When we say spiritual path, obviously it means there is an obstacle here also. That is why Ganesha is called Vigneshwara, no? Vigna Ishwara. One who frees you from obstacles. Symbolic. It's not going to free you. What it means is an awareness of impediment. So any path you take, there is going to be an impediment, a vigna, an obstacle. What is the obstacle? The obstacle is the very relative peace and satisfaction it comes, itself the person misunderstands to be truth. Definitely what knowledge does over a period of time, it brings about a relative, there is a relative strength. What used to affect before will not affect you so much now. What disturbs the other so much will not disturb you. In Bhajagondam, he says, Tatra ko shokaha, tatra ko mohaha, he says. Where is shoka and moha? Where is delusion and depression after this, once you gain this knowledge? Tatra ko, for it doesn't, now even relatively what happens, there is a, even the relative benefit the knowledge gives, a person starts reveling in that relative joy. So what he is cautioning against, the impediment in the spiritual path, do not be satisfied, do not be contented with the relative things that the knowledge provides. Do not do that. That is the impediment. Do not start reveling in the limitations of the practices. What is the limitations here? Story-wise, they talk about various locus. Story-wise, they say. To make you graphically understand, they talk about the various locus. Right up to Brahma Loka. Taittiriya Upanishad says, even if you go to Brahma Loka, you are in darkness. Why even in Brahma Loka? Because enquiry comes when there is a problem. Human beings inquire only when there is a problem, a disturbance. As they say, necessity is the mother of invention. Because predominantly the being is tamasic by nature, predominantly. Therefore, unless driven, the inquiry spirit will not be kept. The spirit of inquiry wouldn't be alive at all. And after coming to this knowledge, what happens? There is more of a relative peace and contentment that itself makes the person feel that he has kind of gotten it. That most of the people misunderstand some of this relative experiences here and there as enlightenment. Most of the people, I'm not, we are not conducting gossip session here to name those. They misunderstand some experiences to be an experience of enlightenment. That is andam tamaha. That is andam tamaha. What is the true state of enlightenment? The true state of enlightenment is this. When we go to the next chapter, we will see that. There is the supreme law, the law of causation. Enlightenment is a state where you are beyond the law of causation. That's why it's called Ishvara. Upadrashta, Hanumanta, Bharta, Bhokta. In the 13th chapter, he says, in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Upadrashta, Hanumanta, Bharta, Bhokta, Maheshwara. What is the state of enlightenment? The state of enlightenment is you are above the law. And most of the people think they are above law. No, already. Already people are thinking they are above the law. But then you know that you are not above the law. How do you know that you are not above the law? Yoga comes, moha comes. When there is shoka and moha, sorrow and delusion, sorrow and depression, vishada, you understand that the law is functioning. You understand that you know that you are not above. Now, so what is enlightenment? A state where you know that you are above the law. The person who is above the law will set a standard of obeying the law. Why? Because if he lives a lifestyle of beyond the law, everybody will start following that. Yadyatacharati sreshtaha tattat eva itarajanaha. Again. So what is enlightenment? The person above the law pretends as though he is completely obeying, understanding the law. So what is enlightenment? First thing, when you go to law of causation, that's how the connection happens. The Upanishadic connection happens. Above law means like Krishna in the battlefield. You can do whatsoever you want to do, and yet you are above. The law pay obeisance to you. That is the state of enlightenment, which is an extraordinary state. People who get a glimpse of some experiences here and there misunderstand themselves to be enlightened. That is what he calls as andam tamaha, blinding darkness. Blinding darkness. And beautiful is this concept, blinding darkness. It's a warning. It's not a concept. It's a warning. The very goodness itself makes you to believe that you have attained something great. I'm talking about relatively now. The very goodness that you develop, the very unselfishness itself makes you believe that you have become something supreme, extraordinary. Contrastingly, today what is happening? The very intelligence is making people believe that they are supreme and extraordinary. No? The very intelligence they have makes them to believe that they are supreme, extraordinary. And what is the nature of intelligence? Intelligence is exploitive, cunning, manipulative. That's what intelligence is. And the sheer ability puts them above the others and makes them to believe that they have actually gained some growth. Tamas misunderstood that sattva is the problem. Are you able to follow what is antam tamaha? They are still in the tamasic state, but the tamas is misunderstood as, I'm talking about relatively. The tamas is misunderstood as Sattva. And what is Antam Tamaha? Swayam Dhirah Panditam Manyamanaha. I am quoting Mundakopanishad. Because they can speak a few words, because they can talk a few things, they think they are above. They think they are Swayam Dhira Panditam Manyamanaha. Dhira, they are not truly wise, but they assume that they are wise. And what is the hallmark of wisdom? The indication of wisdom is this. Sorrow, mental agitation has no legitimacy. You may agree, you may not agree. Sorrow, mental agitation has no legitimacy at all, whatever the reason be it. Shotananvashochastvam prajnavadamscha bhashase. Verse number 11, chapter 2. Shotananvashochastvam prajnavadamscha bhashase kathasuna kathasuscha nanushocanti panditaha. Where he has established 20 verses very clearly. Your depression, your sorrow has no legitimacy. And we have full justifications for all our sorrows, no? All our sorrows and depression, we have legitimate reasons. In the vision of Krishna, in the vision of Vedanta, he starts with that. Arjuna, what is the hallmark of the wisdom? Who is a wise man? Who understands sorrow has no legitimacy at all. It means what? It means what? He will not be sorrowful. It means he wouldn't be sorrowful. Andam tamaha. What is the andam tamaha? Exactly the opposite of it. One of the important mantras of Isavasya Upanishad. Not only Isavasya Upanishad, in fact, all the Upanishads talks about this. Not only Isavasya. Why? Because the moment there is a path, there is no impediment free path. Path means there will be impediment, is the law behind action. Any action you take, any endeavor you have, any endeavor you start, what will be there? There will be an obstacle. That's why in the Shanti Pata means the introductory prayer that we say in all the classes, talks about the 3 types of vigna, the 3 types of obstacles. Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika. Adhyatmikam, Adi Daivikam, Adi Bhautikam. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Obstacles is a three types of obstacles. Any endeavor. So even in the spiritual path, there is an impediment. What is the impediment? Indulging in goodness, very difficult to get out. When you are indulging in bad things, the very pain will wake you up. Huh? Why it is called Andam Tamaha? Able to follow now. When you are indulging in goodness, the very goodness itself is so pleasant. What you will inquire, what inquiry will drive you out of it? What question you can ask to get out of it? That's why it is Andam Tamaha. That's why I started by saying Andam Tamaha means inquiry will stop. Are able to connect now? So the very pleasantness itself will not allow you to do any inquiry. The very pleasantness will not allow you to do anything because, sir, I'm a good person, sir. That's all. No. What more you want? What more you want? Goodness is invariably attached with badness. There cannot be, there is no 100% goodness. A person understanding this law will never get involved in goodness also. Why? Because whatsoever there is a goodness, what will be attached with it inevitably? Inevitably, goodness will have some badness, and badness will have some goodness. What is spiritual path? Liberation. Looking beyond good and bad, going above good and bad, going above right and wrong, going above good and bad. So, when you are getting into the goodness, the very goodness itself, is so enchanting. What will motivate a person to get out of it? Nothing, isn't it? If you are in pain, the pain will wake you up. That's why Kunti Devi, the mother of the Pandavas, asked Krishna, please bless me that I'll be visited by sorrows again and again and again. Krishna gave boon to everybody. And when Krishna gives a boon, don't trust him. Huh? Yeah. He gives a boon only because he is not going to honor that boon. That's why he gives boons very liberally. And 2 days later, if you go and ask him, you will say, no, no, I never said that, he will say. So everybody went and asked him for a boon. Kunti's turn came. Kunti, his own aunt. Kunti is Krishna's own aunt, no? So Kunti told Krishna, what is the boon you want? Kunti said, please bless me that sorrow visits me again and again and again. Why? Krishna, only when we are in sorrow we remember you. Otherwise we don't remember you at all. So, in order to remember the divine, you need sorrow. Now, from that, you come to something good. What will happen? Divine will be forgotten. Why the divine will be forgotten? Because there is the pleasantness. The mind experiences some pleasantness. The mind experiences something that is so wonderful, beautiful, though limited, though it has got nothing to do with spiritual evolution. The mind starts enjoying that. Technically, in pure Vedantic language, what is it called? You do some good action and you get some punya, and don't revel in that punya and waste the time. This is the language. In the classic Vedantic language, what does it mean? You do some good actions and you gather some punya. What is good action? Karma yoga, loka sangraha. Are you able to connect now? What does good action mean? Karma yoga, loka sangraha. That is why when karma yoga is done for the welfare of the world without chitta shuddhi, without the vision of self-purification, if karma yoga is done without the ideal of self-purification, what it turns into? Lokasangraha turns into a? What does it turn into? Punya karma. That punya karma will take you to heaven, a blissful enjoyment, and that blissful state is misunderstood as they have attained something extraordinary. Why andam tamaha? They experience a bliss, and in that bliss, they stop the action. And once the punya is exhausted, what happens? Once the punya is exhausted, what happens? Like the snake and ladder game, no? You go up, 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 and then there is the snake waiting. And invariably you hit the snake and you come back to the starting point. And that fall is an excruciating fall. That pain is more excruciating than the pain of samsaric pain. So out of compassion, the Shastras are telling that pain of fall. So from the beginning, the Shastra, the Guru keeps on saying, what? Do not get, do not rebel. That's what is meant by attachment. Why do you get attached to anything? Because in the initial stages of attachment, there is a joy. That's why you get attached. While you are getting attached itself, if you see the pain, you will never get attached, isn't it? Are you able to follow? In the initial stages of you, the mind gets attached because in the initial stages of attachment, there is a there is a joy. There is so much of happiness. There is so much of content. There, I don't know what all happens in the initial stages of attachment. The same thing happens in the spiritual practice also. So what do they do? What do they do? We have taken to the spiritual path, Loka Sangraha, not because you have to work for the welfare of the world. It's a tool. It's a stepping stone. It's a stepping stone. You cannot avoid it. At the same time, you can't get attached to it. That is as far as Karma Yoga is concerned. What is the involvement in Karma Yoga? What is the involvement in Karma Yoga now? Impediments. Now, what is the impediment in Karma Yoga? I am trying to explain. Then I will come to what is the impediment in Bhakti Yoga. Then I will come to what is impediment in Jnana Yoga. So, first impediment in Karma Yoga. Sorry, when I say first impediment, means the impediment of Karma Yoga is what? Loka Sangraha minus the Chitta Shuddhi. From the bad ego, you will develop a good ego. Now, ego is ego, whether it is good or in relation to being bad ego, the good ego gives you a solace. But again, because of the good ego, again the same problems, the same mistakes. Are you able to follow? So what is the impediment of Karma Yoga? Involvement in the spiritual practices. You get involved in helping, serving the other. Why you get involved in that? Because when you play the role of God, what a kick it gives. Are you able to follow that? That is the involvement in Karma Yoga. Now, what is the involvement in Bhakti Yoga? The involvement in Bhakti Yoga is it will not allow you to transcend the duality. That is involvement in Bhakti Yoga. Involvement in Bhakti Yoga, the impediment of Bhakti Yoga is it will not allow you to transcend the duality. What is duality? You are the devotee of God. You are so grateful, and the gratitude itself is so elevating, and you get stuck at it. Are you able to follow? Bhakti, what is the impediment? It will not allow you to cross the duality. That's where one person to put it so boldly in the English language is Ramatirtha. He says, all religions take you to the level of, all religions take you to the level of duality and you will be stuck there. All religions will take you to the level of duality and you will be stuck there. You'll be stuck in that partial realization, he says. That is impediment in Bhakti Yoga because the very gratitude is so elevating. In gratitude, you are literally 2 feet above the ground when you develop gratitude. And that itself brings about a sense of complacency. That is the impediment of Bhakti Yoga. What is the impediment of Jnana Yoga? Again, there is an impediment. It's not a Jnana Yoga is free with that. There is an impediment in Jnana Yoga also. What is the impediment of Jnana Yoga? The very intellectual understanding of the non-duality Advaita will make you to believe you have reached it already. In my opinion, I will say the impediment of Jnana Yoga is the dangerous, the most dangerous of all the three. Because the sheer logic and reason and explanation that the Shastras give is so wonderful, is so beautiful that the sheer intellectual understanding itself will make you believe that you are that. And how do you know that you are not that? How do you know that? ஒரே indication தான். Are you in shoka? Are you in moha? That's all. Actually, sir, I am not in delusion because of the spiritual problems and all. Because of the neighbor problems only I am agitated. Otherwise, spiritually I am all right. Spiritually, I have problem, sir. I have a problem only with my. I have a problem only with my. Neighbor only I have a problem. The dog barking is the problem, sir. Nothing else is spirituality and all. I have no problem. I have no problem with God. I have no problem with Brahman. All that I have attained already. But the dog barking creates problems. So, what is Andam Tamaha? Intellectually understanding itself will make you believe that you have attained the state of Advaita. Sheer intellectual understanding. Andam Tamaha. What is Andam Tamaha in Bhakti Yoga? You develop gratitude and then you cross over gratitude. You don't have it, you develop it. You develop it and then cross over it. Bhakti Yoga will not allow you to cross over. The very gratitude itself keep you stuck to the duality. What is the impediment of Karma Yoga? You believe that the loka is dependent on you. You have to work for the welfare of the world, and if you don't work for the welfare of the whole world will. நான் இல்லைன்னா என்ன ஆகும் சார் எங்க வீட்டில்? Nothing will happen. Subramaniam. Actually, good things will happen if you are not there, I think. Yeah. Good things will happen if we aren't there. But that is karma, that is impediment of Karma Yoga. Talking about the impediments is not to demotivate you. Talking about the impediments is to make you aware that you can't afford to relax getting involved in this. When you talk about an impediment, it is not to demotivate. Clarity means you should know what the impediments are and you should know how to overcome those impediments. That is clarity. In the name of motivation, you don't turn blind to the impediments. Why? Because the moment we talk about a path, what invariably comes in a path? I'm repeating again. The moment you call a path, what invariably comes in a path? Vigna. Vigna means obstacle. Obstacle comes. Three types of obstacles. What are the three types? Bodily, mind and body, immediate, and then total. Three types of obstacles. If you noticed, all the pujas will start with Vigneshwara Puja, no? I don't know whether you notice it. Even to do Vigneshwara Puja, you will do one Vigneshwara Puja. Oh, in my house, it became a ritual from the early days, and still I am under a lot of that influence. When I got the thread ceremony at all at the age of 9, yeah, at the age of 9, I got the thread ceremony, and from that year onwards, my father made a rule that I will do all the pujas and the rituals. Even today, my family thinks I'm a priest. They think that I'm, because I know the mantras. I know the mantras to do the. Don't call me for all this work. I'm just saying. Don't call, because I got so involved in that. I got to do so. I knew all this. So I used to think, okay, for Saraswati Puja, you do Vigneshwara Puja is understandable. For Janmashtami, you do a Vigneshwara Puja is understandable. You know, we do the Ganapati Puja, no, every year. And for that also there is one puja. I said, at least you can straight away that, I asked the priest, Mama, அப்படியே straight போயிடலாமே அதுக்கு. வாய் மூடுன்னு சொல்றத பண்ணி சார். Shut your mouth and do what you are asked to do. Vigna. Much later you understand, any undertaking will have an obstacle. Knowledge means an awareness, acceptance of the obstacle, and also having a solution. That is the important thing in the spiritual path. Impediments in the spiritual path. Be aware of the impediments. And what are the impediments? Involvement in karma yoga, involvement in bhakti yoga, involvement in jnana yoga. That is the impediment. Antam tamaha. And Mundaka Upanishad goes, if Isavasya Upanishad says blinding darkness, Mundaka directly திட்டுறது இல்லையா? Directly it scolds you. Moodaha, it says. Janganyamana pariyanti moodaha ande naiva niyamana yata andaha. Came to something for your evolution, and that has become the cause of your downfall. Now what to do? Are you able to follow what is blinding darkness? You come into this for evolution, and the very thing that you come into for evolution itself brings the downfall. This is where the Shastra and the Guru comes, because they give a knock on the head and say, you are getting involved. You are getting involved. You are getting involved. To conclude, involvement in goodness is more dangerous than addictions. For any sensual, emotional, materialistic addictions, the pain will wake you up. Here, the pain takes very long time for it to manifest. The pain takes a long time for it to manifest. And in that period, you delude yourself to believe that you are growing. And then the same Upanishads gives the standard for growth. What is the standard for growth? What is the yardstick to measure growth? One word. Yeah, I will see the chat now. Oh, Vijay, first question type on. I forgot my question. What is the question I asked? Because if I read all the answers, I forget the question. What is the question? Yardstick for growth. Ore word da. What is the yardstick for growth?
Vairagya.
Vairagya. Change the host at the varo. Abusing his position, open the mic and he spoke. None of you all can open, no. The abuse of position. Ganesh, you will be the host also next week. Don't. One word. What is the yardstick for growth? What did Ganesh say? Vairagya, Narayan, change. That one word is called sannyasa, renunciation. The spirit of renunciation. The spirit of renunciation is the yardstick for growth. That's what it means. That's the one and only yardstick. The manifestation of your renunciation is dharana, dhyana, the ability to concentrate and the ability to single-pointed concentration. The manifestation of renunciation is how? How does renunciation manifest? Dharana, dhyana, concentration, single-pointed concentration. Yogarato va, bhogarato va, sangarato va, sangavihinaha. Bhajagovinda. So what is the yardstick for growth? Renunciation is the yardstick for growth. Beautiful word. Sannyasa. Nyasam, knowledge, well left. Sannyasa is two words. Sam plus nyasam equals sannyasam. Like sam plus bandha equals sambandha, no? So the word sam is a prefix to nyasa. So nyasa itself means well left. Sannyasa means well left. Why it is called sannyasam? You leave it for good. Means you never go back. Just leave it. But sir, I'm not able to leave it. Attachment. I'm getting agitated by it. Why do you want to take law into your hands? The law will take care. This morning, one of the girls very close to me. I don't know why all these people get congregated only in California. I don't understand, but they are all in California. That girl, Meera, she's there. So she called me this morning something. I'm quoting her because I told her I will give you an example. Because I have never seen a fool like you, I said. Yes, sir, she said. I really want to help some people. I want to, some experiences she went through in life, and she is of the opinion that she has learned and she has become very wise now. And she immediately wants to share the wisdom with others and help those who are in trouble. I said, growth means you would have left behind and you will think how to go to the next level, not go back and get involved in it again. Every human being, there is this problem of andam tamaha, even relatively. And she told me, you are a cheat, sir, she said. Because she got the title ready 2 months back for the book. And I told, what a fantastic title. I wish I had the brains like you, I said. Yeah. And she almost got the thing ready now. But then I told her, without checking with me, you don't do it. So finally, today was that day. So she asked me, your goodness will end up in more harmful to others. That's why renunciation is very important. The hallmark of renunciation. Are you able to follow? As an example, during the freedom struggle, Annie Besant went and told Mahatma Gandhi. Annie Besant went and told Mahatma Gandhi, she said, your poverty is more expensive, she said. Your display of poverty is more expensive. Actually, if you have led a normal life, we don't have to. Your poverty is expensive. Then, are you able to follow? He said to keep you in poverty. You know how much we are spending. She said. Andam tamaha, blinding darkness. Not criticizing Gandhi. I have nothing to do. Yeah, I'm just only giving examples where this andam tamaha is so prevalent and the harm that comes out of goodness is more dangerous. Why? Because when you are good, you tend to think that you are above law. Are you able to connect now? When you are good, there will be a tendency to think that you are above law and you can do whatever you want, you can say whatever you want. No. Growth is measured by only one thing. What? Detachment. Growth is measured only by one thing, detachment. Sannyasa. Sannyasa literally means well left. Nyasam nale left, well left. Sannyasam means well left. What does it mean? You see the stone, Atma Bodha. Remember the oyster shell example? In the moonlight, the oyster shell is misunderstood for silver. The moment you have the right knowledge, you will stop collecting those silvers. So these are the impediments. So the Shastra says, the knowledge says, before you get into a journey, be aware of the impediments. What are the impediments? To summarize, Karma Yoga, what is impediment? Loka Sangraha minus Chitta Shuddhi is involvement in Karma Yoga. Chitta Shuddhi means self-purification, inner purification. Without inner purification, you simply want to work for the welfare of the world alone. Is not Karma Yoga. That is involvement in Karma Yoga. What is involvement in Bhakti Yoga? You will be stuck in the duality. You can never cross over duality. The very gratitude itself makes you feel so elevated, you'll be stuck. And what is the impediment in Jnana Yoga? The impediment of Jnana Yoga is clear intellectual understanding. Intellectual understanding means you are only repeating somebody's experience. It's not your experience. Intellectual understanding is nothing but repeating the experience of another. It is not yet your experience. And because of the intellectual understanding, you misunderstand the experience of another as yours. Are you able to follow? You misunderstand the experience of another as yours is the impediment in Jnana Yoga. From the beginning, the Upanishad wants. This is called avidya. This is called ignorance. That's why I'm using both the mantras of Isavasya and Mundaka to elaborate. That Isavasya mantra and Mundaka Upanishad mantra. Avidyaya mantare vartamanaha swayam dhiraah panditam manyamanaha. Mundaka Upanishad and Isavasya Upanishad says andam tamah pravishanti yantare. They grope in blinding darkness. Not only they grope in blinding darkness, what they do, they drag others also into it. Because they are so convinced that what they are doing is right. Not only they grope in darkness, they drag others also into it. Blinding darkness. Why? They believe that what they are doing is right. So what is the Upanishadic advice? If you are interested in the spiritual evolution, there is a infallible, irrefutable indication of growth. What is it? Sannyasa. Sannyasa. Vairagya is a practice. Ganesh. Vairagya is a practice to become sannyasa. Correct. It's not that you are not wrong. But Vairagya is a practice. I was looking for the word sannyasa, detachment. And what is detachment? Detachment is when you have understood the real worthiness of anything. When you understand the real worthiness of anything, you get detached. So detachment happens by understanding the real worth. This is impediments in the spiritual path. With this, we conclude this topic, use and abuse of religion, and we will be moving on to the law of causation. Actually, I was thinking we have to do law of causation, and I had a lot of preamble also for causation. When I saw that Upanishadic mantra, then I got connected to Mundaka Upanishad and We spent the whole time discussing what are the impediments. Specific impediment of Karma Yoga, specific impediment of Bhakti Yoga, and the specific impediment of Jnana Yoga. And to be aware of it is very important. And then comes the beautiful lesson, the law of causation. Law of causation means cause and effect, karma. That's all. It means the law of karma. Understanding this law itself is freedom. Understanding the law itself makes you free of so many things, which we will discuss in when we go the next class. We'll start with that. The law of causation. So, even though the book says there is impediment, and be careful about the impediments. What are the impediments? The three yogas. What is it in the three yogas that is the impediment? Which is what I thought we can discuss today, and we discussed that. Is it okay? With this, we conclude this chapter and session today. Next week, the law of causation. This law of causation and the theory of perception, and then the illusions. Three pillars upon which the knowledge is resting. Rest of it and all is a further explanation of these three lessons. Theory of perception, law of causation. Theory of perception means how knowledge happens and how all knowledges are false knowledges. How do you gain knowledge and how all knowledges are false by nature is explained in theory of perception. And the false knowledge makes it look so real. That's Maya. How the false appears to be real is Maya. I thought we have come very fast. In these three chapters, I don't know how much time it will take for us to finish it, but very interesting to learn. We'll start with the law of karma, the law of causation next.